Alright guys, welcome back to VALORANT News, with Sentinels confirming their roster for this weekend's massively important game up against Crew Esports if they want any chance of making it to the playoffs. Dephh has seemingly revealed that indeed he has been entirely removed from the organisation. What's happened here at Sentinels? What has happened with Dephh? What's his future going to be? Has he been unfairly treated? And what does it mean for Sentinels? Who actually is their substitute right now, should they need someone to step in? Very much intrigued to hear your thoughts in the comments below. Hit the like button if you enjoy. Subscribe if you're new as always, I'd greatly appreciate it. First of all, a quick note here from the EMEA region. We had Karmine Corp winning against Fnatic briefly. It was 3-2 at a time, and I'm sure they were very happy about this. In fairness, they did almost win this second map. They got bodied map 1 13-2, and then eventually Fnatic got the job done. But yeah, so KC, in fairness, look, Lotus was 13-10, so it wasn't a complete demolition job. Haven was 13-2 though, and still, Fnatic are just absurdly good. I mean, everyone's positive on the team. Both had like a 1v3 in there. It's funny because even when Durka isn't, he had a good couple of maps there, good series, but even if Alpha's not there, which he was, then Chronicle's going to be there. Leah's, even Boaster's slaying out sometimes. So, man, this team is absurdly good. But how good are they on the international stage? Are they still the best team in the world? I would say they probably are. But Sam Rosenberg here looks into the playoff chances. I know I've showed some graphics on this for the last couple of days. This is maybe a slightly cleaner and easier way to look at it as to what the chances are going into these final couple of games. So Fnatic, of course, Na'Vi guaranteed, as are most of these other teams here in the EMEA side. Really, there's the battle for the 6th spot between either BBL, Vitality, or Heretics can make it. Casey and Koi, no chance for them. I think Fnatic and Na'Vi still have to play, so that's why they're expected 7-2, but they got a good victory against FUT Esports last night at 2-0, with cNed playing out of his skin as well, as we come to expect at this point. This is the Pacific side, so again, as expected, DRX, T1, PaperX, they've made it no problem. Zeta should be good to make it, as with GenG. And then it comes down to RRQ are the best team outside of that with the best chance, right? But even Global Esports still have an outside chance. Team Secret, Talon as well. So it's only one team here that's guaranteed to be gone, and that's Detonation Gaming. And it's the same story in the Americas as well, with only Crew being officially out of it. Every other team has got a chance. So, still, Leviathan are actually not guaranteed. NRG and Furious should be, but it's still not guaranteed. So, I think it's honestly really interesting in the Americas the way these last few games are going to go. If you get to 5 wins, you'll be fine. No problem at all. But if it's 4 wins, then tiebreakers are on the table. Sentinels are expected to go 3-6. That's their projected final record. They should beat Crew. They should probably lose to Furia. But if they can win both those series, then their chances become roughly 50%, and they need other things to go their way, such as Evil Geniuses to lose, 100 Thieves to lose to the correct teams, and therefore Sen can win the tiebreaker. So that's what they're going for. This is just a nice little overview here from Rosenberg on what to expect going into these final matches. But speaking of Sentinels, gotta say, Sentinels are absolute masters at farming impressions. I've never seen an esports organization do it as effectively as they do, but, the way they actually treat and handle their player situations and their player relations is far from optimal, and I think that everyone's come to realize that over the last couple of years, especially with how the ShahZaM and even the dapr situations went down at the end of last season, and the words that were said between ShahZaM and Rob Moore and all this kind of drama that was going on Twitter. It was difficult to really determine at the time what was happening, but I think it's become maybe more clear in the last few months the way they handled the Psycho thing, the way they're now handling the Dephh thing, that what is going on with Sentinels, right? Because we even saw the tweet, I mentioned it yesterday, where they said, I'll drop Dephs as the dumbest person you know. 2 weeks later, that's exactly what we've done. The thing that frustrates me about the way Sentinels deal with this is just there is really no transparency at all on what you see from Sentinels. We have no idea. Psycho being removed, we still don't really know why that was the case. They just, decided to part ways with him. That was made official, and then Kaplan became the new head coach of the team. There was discussions as to why, but we never really got a good explanation from either side. Same story with Dephh, right? Now, George Geddes says, sources say that they parted ways. That was, and parted ways obviously implies to a certain extent this was mutual, but, given the fact that we don't know, it's kind of tough to say. And even George kind of comes out last night and says, parting ways does not mean one party fired the other, it was mutual. And as Thorin says, that's cope in 99% of cases. Realistically, it's a gentleman's way of saying one party fired the other, which I'm more inclined to agree with, right? But who really knows? Did Dephh go to Sentinels and say, look, it's not really working out with this team, maybe it's better if you guys put me to the bench and try something else, and then then said, you know what, that's actually a pretty good idea. We're just going to terminate your contract. And also, how are these contracts working that they can just terminate people? I don't exactly know. Are they having to pay some sort of like buyout to get them out of the contract, or are they just able to terminate the contract whenever they like? You'd have thought that these contracts have been more guarantees, such that these players and coaches in Psycho's case can't just get completely released with no payout in the middle of a season. But we just don't know. Like, Sentinels never tell us any of this stuff, and we still don't know other details, such as who their substitute now is, and we'll get onto that in a second. So, was that the case and Dephh said first, or was it the organization said, hey, Dephh, we probably are going to want to bring TenZ back in because we might as well. We're a clout organization. That's what we're going to do. And you're probably going to be the one to make way. And then Dephh said, you know what? Fair enough. Like, just terminate the deal so I can go to a new team. But if that was the case and Dephh wants to leave and go elsewhere, then you would have expected him to come up with some sort of, I'm now a free agent. Thanks for Sentinels for their time. I'm now looking for a new opportunity. But he hasn't done anything like that. All we have from Dephh is that he's completely removed his Twitter header. His picture is still him in the Sentinel shirt, but, he's removed Dephh. I would try to go on Spoonbill to find this, because Spoonbill's a website that it shows you changes in Twitter profiles and bios, but for some reason I can never log in there. It just seemed to be down today. But I'm pretty certain that this used to say Dephh, and I'm pretty certain that it used to say something like in-game leader for Sentinels in his bio, and that's now all gone, right? So I think it's quite clear that Dephh is, saying here that he's out of Sentinels. That's done and dusted. Yes, he was far from, spectacular. He didn't set the world on fire or anything in his stint with Sentinels, but I still feel like that, the individuals there have been treated somewhat unfairly. It seems that from the outside at least, and I'm sure maybe he looked at the way things went down with Psycho, his former coach over at Excel as well, and maybe predicted the same thing happening to him. So anyway, what's next for Psycho and Dephh? We don't really know, but still, I think it's quite clear that he's no longer going to be a part of Sentinels at all, and this does raise other questions.
It does feel like a bit of a defusal right now.
Sentinels will win this weekend?
And with a big score line of an 8.
I know, honestly, I could not tell you though. I know crew are going through it.
If Shopify can win out
but so are
this attacking
Sentinels.
round, they'll at least
We've had
have
a lot
the
of
economy
roster
build up.
changes. It's
Hopefully,
been a shaky season.
It's a 50-50.
And as straightforward as it looks,
Shopify 4-10.
I don't think it's clean cut at all. So Sentinels are going to definitely have to play well. I doubt they're going to underestimate them. Am I subbing in? The unofficial 7th, bro. Hey, Sun City Tarek here. I've decided to pick up 4 of my subs and play alongside me, alongside myself for the rest of the season. I'd like to thank the former team for everything they've done. However, these results will not be tolerated. My Twitch subscribers will take this team to the next level.
The other question especially that I have is who actually is the substitute now? You would have thought, right, that if you're going to move Dephh to the bench, unless Dephh said, look, just cut me, I want to go elsewhere. Like, unless he said that, which if he did, as I say, I would have expected by now some sort of free agency announcement from Dephh searching for new opportunities, unless he actually already has something lined up and therefore he doesn't need to say anything. But, whatever. If you cut him completely, it means you've got no option to bring him back. I mean, maybe the team is just terrible now without Dephh. There is basically no IGL there. Yes, Marv can do some calling. Yes, Sassy can do some calling. And it probably works against some of the lesser teams. But when you play the top dogs with, an FNS as the IGL, or let's say an Angel or Na'Vi or a Boaster on Fnatic, if you've got no, dedicated specialized IGL, you're really going to struggle, I think, to adapt in those situations. And with Dephh no longer being part of anything involved with the organization, it does leave them somewhat vulnerable if they were to struggle a little bit, looking forward to the LCQ, for example, right? If they, weren't to make it here to the playoffs, which is still pretty unlikely. So who's their sub, right? Is it Zoms, right? Is it Asu from their, content side? Kind of like what NRG did with Ethos, right? Is it Tarek, right? Like, who is signed as their emergency sub? They probably won't need one, but it's probably not Dephh, right? So I don't know, and I don't think it can be Kaplan either, and maybe it can be, but I think there's some rules in place. I'm not sure it can be Drew Spark, either their analyst or their assistant coach as he is now. So yeah, man, I don't know what's going on with Sentinels. It's an absolutely wild organization, I've got to say. Before we finish though, let's dive into the situation in the tier 2 side. The guards did a pretty funny tweet last night. Due to role issues, Josh RT will be moving to the head coach. Tex will rejoin the starting lineup. So we know that Tex got a concussion last week in remarkable circumstances. So he's now well again and will rejoin the team. So yeah, Josh RT's head coaches are out of there for role issues, as they say. But also another game between Oxygen and SR. So there were 2 games last night. This was actually ridiculous, this shot from Redux here. Just want to wanted to show this one because he hits this first shot, satchels out of there, and then hits this ridiculous second shot as well. I mean, look at the flick here onto the Rays. Absolutely spectacular stuff onto Marder. And that was Oxygen Esports at their best. SR beat, M80 the other week. They looked super good with Vanity in the team. And now all of a sudden they got absolutely blown out of the park. I will say that Scuba, I mean, this poor guy was stuck in contract jail for some time. He is absolutely disgusting, right? I mean, this guy's ridiculous. He had 34 and 18 over the series. And yeah, Vanity going from pretty much putting M80 in the bin to having a really tough time here against Oxygen. So Oxygen's super impressive. And I mean, man, Challenges is really spicing up now because it's very tough to call. Oxygen looking really good indeed. We've got Moist Moguls, we'll see in a second, also looking really good. 13-10 on Binds, 13-4 on Haven, not even close really at the end of it. So SR go down a swift 2-0, and yeah, as Vanity says, one more game for them to play, but still far from ideal. And then Aura Esports get bodied by Moist Moguls, probably expectedly so, but still 13-4, 13-9. I mean, that's impressive. Aura Esports are not bad at all, but yeah, Moist Moguls are really playing well. So this is, you know, proves really that they made the correct call. Ludwig and Charlie and co picking up this particular team, and arguably they're a top 3 team right now in challenges, which is, you know, which is really remarkable to think that they actually have a decent shot to be the team that makes it through Ascension. Because you know, look, M80, they were killing it at the start of the year, as were the guards, but they've looked more vulnerable lately than they have in some time, and you know, it's far from guaranteed. They're getting ready here for their series against DSG that's coming up today, 7 PM Eastern. But look at the way this is playing out, right? It's a Group A. Oxygen and Turtle Troop are the 3-1 teams. Disguised 0-3. They're probably going to have a rough time against M80 as well. But yeah, Shopify Rebellion 2-2. TSM right 1-3 now after losing to Turtle Troop the other day. And then in Group B, G2 are 0-4. Okay, the guards still 2-1. Mad Lions or Esports, don't expect too much of them. FaZe 3-1. Moist Moguls 4-0. So, I mean, man, it's really interesting to see how this is developing, that going into the playoffs, only 2 teams get through those playoffs, right? A while ago, you'd have said hands down M80 the guards, but now it's not so clear. G2 are falling off at the inopportune moments. Moist Moguls are stepping up to the plate. You know, like, you know, I'd still reckon M80 will get through the playoffs to go to the Ascension tournament, but the other team, and maybe it's the guards, I think it could be a number of different teams. It's really exciting to see how this is going to conclude, but very much intrigued to hear your thoughts in the comments below. Hit the like button if you enjoyed, subscribe if you're new, take care, and I'll see you next time.